Good evening and welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category and you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to Let's Talk program in K of One Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis, or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down. So you're well organized. And when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, we respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything that we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. Tonight we have two segments to the show. Our first segment will feature Brian Dyer, who is the manager of the Nevis Disaster Organization right here and in the Nevis Island Administration. He's been here before. We've talked to him on many occasions when there are impending disasters and all that, especially hurricanes. Brian, good evening. It's good to have you.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to the listening audiences.
Okay, now, as I indicated, we got two segments to the program. The first segment, you. Let's talk about a couple of things. But first, for the folks who may not know who you are and what you do and your office do and all that, let's do that first, and then we will speak about recent earthquake. We'll talk a little bit about the drought situation that's forecast for the Caribbean for this year, and we're already experiencing some of it. We got a little rain last night and today, and we'll also talk about hurricane season, officially a few days. So let's do that.
All right, good evening again. I'm Brian Dyer, the director at the Nevis Disaster Management Department. The Nevis Disaster Management Department is responsible for preparing the island of Nevis for the impact of any hazards and the response mechanism towards the restoration and recovery from these hazards. The Caribbean is the second most hazardous place on Earth, and second only to the Pacific Ocean. So we are susceptible to a myriad of hazards. So we are charged with responsibility for providing the general public with information what to do before, during, and after each hazard impact, and also to encourage them to develop their family disaster plans and communication plans, and also business continuity plans for the businesses, to ensure that we can ensure that we are able to recover in a shortest period of time, depending on the magnitude of the impact. Okay,
so let's go to what a lot of folks experienced on Saturday. You give us your official synopsis of it, and you perhaps I'm asking the question ahead, and after you'll explain that, does it suggest that more is on the way or what?
On Saturday 16th, the Northeast Caribbean experienced a magnitude 6.5 earthquake. It was later reduced by the US seismic to 6.4. The University of the West Indies Seismic Research Center operates the largest sensors, or largest amount of geophysical sensors in the Caribbean. So they are responsible for to the Caribbean governments for providing official updates with regards to earthquakes and tsunamis. However, the impact of tsunamis that is being coordinated with the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. So I'm aware that there were some discrepancies in the magnitude that were published on Saturday, but because of the proximity of the UE seismic sensors to the event, we relied on the official word from the UE seismic, as they are responsible to the governments of the Caribbean. The earthquake was widely felt as far south as St. Lucia and as far north as Puerto Rico. It was alarming for a number of persons, as earthquakes did not give or does not give warnings when they are occurring. So it's important that persons know the signs of earthquakes occurring, what to do before, during, and after. And also, some earthquakes, based on their magnitude and location, could generate a tsunami. So it's important that you also look and know the signs of a tsunami occurring. The News Disaster Management Department, because we have so many hazards that could impact the island, our federation, we have developed what we call our public awareness campaign, which is a robust mechanism for providing awareness to the general public. Each month we identify a particular hazard to be promoted in that month. So what we have done, we start the year with the geophysical hazards. That is the hazards that has to do with the movement of the earth. So in January we start with earthquake awareness. In February we have landslide. In March we do tsunami, and in April we do volcano or volcanic eruptions as the promoted hazard. During the promotion of these hazards, we have recognized that it was sort of laborious for the members of staff to be promoting all these hazards before, during, and after event to the various stakeholders. So we have since 2017, we have partnered with the Ministry of Education, and in 2019 we've started with the faith-based organizations. So we have with us the schools that have adopted hazards, and also the faith-based organization or the churches, the Nevis Evangelical Association and the Nevis Christians Council. They are on board with regards to promoting the awareness for the various hazards. So for January we had the Charleston Primary School and the Wesleyan Holiness denomination promoting earthquake awareness. For February we had the St. James Primary School and the Ebenezer Church of God with regards to promoting landslide. In March we promote tsunami, and the school is St. Thomas's Primary, that is our champion for the tsunami awareness, and also the Seventh Adventist Church is the denomination that promote the tsunami awareness. In April we promote the volcanic hazard or volcanoes, and Joycelyn Liburd is the champion for promoting volcano, and the Church of God of Prophecy is the faith-based organization that promotes volcanoes. The event on Saturday, an earthquake, it was a surprise to many persons. It caused a stir, and there were several reports being felt across the island. We had a few persons who are part of the awareness campaign and were prepared to evacuate. There were others who called indicating that they felt the earthquake and would like to know if tsunami is approaching. When an earthquake occurs, we are in discussions with the Tsunami Warning Center in Trinidad. We also receive an email from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center indicating the magnitude and if there are any actions with regards to evacuation based on any threat or tsunamis. So that was received and analyzed, and also there's an informal chat among the Caribbean disaster managers, the Caribbean Tsunami Warning Focal Points, the Caribbean Tsunami Warning Centers, and that chat became alive as we started discussing the magnitude of the earthquake, the frequency, and the felt reports that were discussed across the Caribbean.
So that's the earth, because the persons who are older, the persons who are maybe more knowledgeable would understand that maybe the history of Nevis with earthquakes and all that, and we can get into it maybe in detail some other time, because even the structures are designed to withstand certain tremors and stuff like that. But let's go on to the drought situation and also onto the other area, the hurricanes is heading up.
Okay, the drought is fully entrenched, unfortunately, but that's the reality. We have seen a reduced amount of rainfall since late January. The forecast is for the formation of the El Nino scenario, which is usually calls for a reduction in the number of storms that develop in the Atlantic. With the reduction in the number of storms expected in the Atlantic, that also signifies less rainfall, as the formation of tropical storms will be less. So we can expect for the hurricane season increased temperatures, less rainfall, the greater impact of this Sahara dust that also stifles the formation of tropical storms, which we would experience increased wind shear in the upper atmosphere that would tend to blow away the tops of the clouds that form tropical storms. So it is important that we start preparing now for the long haul, where we experience less rainfall. Farmers would need to start storing water, and so it doesn't impact the main system. So they should install the drip irrigation and utilize that with regards to cisterns and other methods of water collection. We should also start checking on the elderly persons and vulnerable persons, as they will be exposed to the heat both during the daytime and nighttime, as we would experience more heat wave days and nights where the temperatures will be above normal, above average for the summer months. And the Sahara dust is another phenomenon we have to look forward to combating. We would expect or encourage persons who have respiratory illnesses to wear masks or stay indoors as much as possible. We would encourage also persons who are affected with allergies to also wear masks and remain outdoors or shorten the time spent outdoors. With the influx of the Sahara dust and the warm ocean temperatures, we should also see an increase in the sargassum weeds, so that would impact our beaches. And communities located close to the beaches, they would be affected by the stench from the rotting of the the sargassum weeds. So that could have an impact on our tourism product and our environment during the summer months as well. So it's important that we pay attention to the upcoming hurricane season and the dry periods, as it would have an economical impact, it would have an environmental impact, as person would need to be cooled down more frequently. We would encourage person to wear more light fitting clothing and bright color clothing, especially white, as the heat would need to be dissipated, and persons are encouraged to drink a lot of fluids to stay hydrated.
Okay, so what's in the early forecast, if you have anything yet, for the hurricane season? It's going to be active, non-active, what, and so on, and then we can...
All right, the Colorado State University has released their prediction for 2026. They have called for 14 named storms, which is below average, or average, because the average is 14 named storms, 6 of which could be hurricanes and 2 can be major hurricanes. The National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, they should be releasing their report on Thursday this week, so we look forward to receiving that report. But other institutions are predicting between 13 and 15 named storms. 6 to 7 could be hurricanes, and 3 to 4 could be major hurricanes. That's the initial predictions for quite a number of other institutions. But a lot of persons and other entities rely on what the NOAA would forecast, so that report would be released on Thursday this week.
Okay, so the drought has any, the experts think if we're having a drought, by the way, do we have an El Nino this time?
Yes, the scientists are saying the El Nino is building at this time, and it is expected to be fully entrenched by this summer. The El Nino is the unusual warming of the Eastern Pacific Ocean. That's the area next to the Central American states. So that area is extremely warm currently, and it would likely to have an active hurricane season. However, the active hurricane season in the Pacific would reduce the storms in the Atlantic, as there's more wind shear that would come from the Eastern Pacific to the Atlantic.
And that's when we normally get them off the coast of Africa.
That's tropical waves come off the coast of Africa, and then there's an area of main development between the Caribbean islands and Africa.
Okay.
Right. However, with the El Nino and the wind shear developing, you may see more storms develop in the Caribbean Sea or Gulf of Mexico rather than in the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, so that is perhaps the expectation this year.
Yes.
More from the Caribbean Sea area, Gulf of Mexico.
Yes.
Okay, but anything can happen with the weather, right?
Anything can happen, because in 2023 it was also an El Nino year, and we had up to 20 named storms. So it will be interesting to see if the NOAA report supports what the Colorado State University is saying, and as an average year, 14 named storms. And
we don't have to worry about Melissa again, right?
No, she was a bad lady, and her name was retired to the hurricane.
But you mustn't say that.
I know she'll get me after that.
Okay. Yeah, okay, Brian, so as the season gets closer, we'll talk again. And also, so it's May, halfway May. How are you doing with your preparations and so on for the beginning of the season? You got your committees and folks and stuff like that. You normally organize that before.
Yes, we are in preparation mode. We have already had our discussion with our stakeholders, with the Honorable Minister Spencer Brand. He's the Minister responsible for disaster management. So we had our meeting with him. So he is in a more knowledgeable state as to how we were able to perform in the event that we impacted, whether regardless of the hazard. Hurricane-wise, we have our training program fully entrenched. We have already inspected our shelters. We have serviced our generators. We continue to work with our volunteers, and we have some equipment available and tarpaulins, etc., to be rolled out in the event that we impacted.
Okay, and so that's you from the office and the government side of it.
Yes.
And so you're encouraging each and every household to also get prepared.
We are encouraging all households to start shopping for the dry goods, to start cleaning around the premises, and to ensure the guttering, etc. are cleaned, and to also develop the disaster plan.
As you said, guttering, does the government or your organization able to assist persons who may, let's say, be in flood-prone areas, they may be close to guts, suppose they realize that this gut normally, when there's a lot of rain, overflows if it's blocked, for instance. So is it possible they can call your department, point that out, and you get it organized?
Yes, we do partner with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Communications, Public Works, for gut clearing programs. So we will do a lot of inspections, sometimes in collaboration with Public Works, sometimes as a standalone unit, and then we would discuss with Public Works how to get the job done, and that is taken care of.
Okay, Brian, well, any final word?
As the hurricane season is less than 2 weeks away, we encourage persons to ramp up their preparations and ensure that they're in a state of preparedness and readiness to face what comes through the next 6 months.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's always good working along with you and your team. You guys have done a good job through the years, and let's see what happens, what's before us.
We stand ready to respond.
Brian Dyer, manager of the Nevis Disaster Management Office, giving us a little background on what we experienced on Saturday across some of the islands, the earthquake 6.1, 6.5, and also the drought situation in the Caribbean across the islands currently, and a preview into what hurricane season 2026 may well look like. We thank Mr. Brian Dyer. Our second segment is next.
You're listening to Vaughn Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis.
Ready to save while you build? Now you can at Builders Paradise. Yes, shoppers, build up your Value Club points at Builders Paradise. That's right, Value Club members and shoppers, your favorite frequent buyer club is now available at the home of hardware and more. Whether you're laying tiles, painting walls, replacing doors, upgrading windows, or fixing up your home, every purchase at Builders Paradise now earns you Value Club points. Enjoy exclusive benefits like discounts on thousands of items, special savings for seniors, instant deals, quarterly rebates, plus an extra up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, earn more, only at Builders Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builders Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
Back on this episode of Talk That Get Results, our first segment featured Brian Dyer, who is the manager of the Nevis Disaster Management Office. Our second segment, Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Once a special good evening to all those who are listening and viewing via the various medium. We welcome you to Let's Talk, well, the second half of Let's Talk this evening. Webbo, I want to say happy birthday to Michael Wise Herbert over there in England. Happy birthday. Also want to say a special good evening and happy birthday to Suzette Dreams. We hope that you guys had a wonderful day and your night would be even a better one. Well, for those who are hospitalized, I wish them a speedy recovery. And those who would have passed, I pray that the Lord would give them the strength to go through this difficult period. But I want to encourage persons to call in, as it's an interactive program. We can learn something from you, and of course, you can learn something from us. Webbo, once again, thank you for the invitation.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to your very hard-working staff here at Von Radio. Good evening to all those who are listening to this edition of the Let's Talk Show on this wonderful Tuesday night here in Bath Village and, of course, on the beautiful island of Nevis. Let me say good evening to all those who are listening in our neighboring islands, across the Narrows, our sister island, to those in the various Virgin Islands. I believe my very good friend Roach is normally logged in. I want to say good evening to him. Webbo, to all those who are listening over the pond, over in England, I know we have some students as well all the way over there in Taiwan, so I want to say greetings to them. But I want to start by offering birthday greetings to a lady who made 100 years. I was at a church service this morning, and I am still in awe that someone at 100 years is still possessing all of her faculty and capacity to communicate and to interact, and listening to various comments about one Ernestine France was very remarkable and very enlightening. So I want to say happy 100th birthday to Miss Ernestine France. I also, Webbo, want to take this opportunity to wish all other persons who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, a very wonderful evening, and I hope that they are having a wonderful celebration. To those persons who are sick in our various hospitals here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course to those who may be seeking medical assistance overseas, I hope that with the help of the medical professionals, our doctors, our nurses, and all of those lab techs, they can be nursed back to full health, and of course with divine intervention. To all those families who are in mourning, certainly want to offer my very deepest condolences. I want to particularly offer deep condolences to my former neighbor, who will be laid to rest tomorrow in England, Wilma Griffin. Very sweet lady. She was my neighbor for quite a while there in the Marion Heights area. She would have migrated to England. Well, her family would have taken her to England, and we have learned of her passing and will be laid to rest. So to the family of Wilma Griffin, there in England, we are certainly with you as you go through this very difficult period. Webbo, I want to thank you for this invitation, and I am indeed looking forward to the conversations tonight.
Janet Maloney, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert and your staff, and good evening, my fellow panelists. I'm so happy to be here tonight. In fact, I want to give God thanks. The last time I was here, well, since I got into an accident, was a close call, and I just want to say openly that God spared my life, and to Him I give all glory and praise, and that accident would have humbled me somewhat and give me a new perspective on life. And so I'm here tonight, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be a part of this conversation. And I just want to say good evening to my listening audience, our listening audience near and far, and I hope that you enjoy the discussion that we have tonight, and be free to give your feedback. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all again. Before we get into stuff that you put on the table, let me just take this opportunity to say hello to Ted Hobson. We got you. Thank you for always being in. And secondly, this is a strange hello to the late Edric W. Stanley. Now, the reason why I say that is because of this. I was so pleased about a week or two ago that some folks were here visiting the station, some live overseas, so they came and look us up. And you almost always do that if you live overseas or wherever, even if you live in Nevis, and you listen and come and tell us hello. We like that. We feel good about it. So anyway, we got into a discussion because the folks were talking about Let's Talk, and one gentleman gave an opinion. He became passionate about this destiny. I don't know whose destiny is it, but this destiny and this SSZ and all that. Everybody talks about it. And then he says, and he was very serious, he said to me, Webbo, this debate needs Edric. And I never pass a polite moment, so I say, really? So you think I should bring him back? He said, yeah. I said, okay. So in other words, that's like the other day we had a discussion. This is what I'm telling the guys, and some folks were so upset and passionate about the West Indies team and losing, and they started to talk about Richards and Lloyd and Fredericks and so on. So I asked one of the callers, so you think we should bring them back? They say, yeah. So now, the serious part about it is, with Edric, it shows you the contribution that the man made while he was here. That people, X number of years later, a very serious debate comes up, and the guy says, we need to have Edric with this thing. That's number one. And the other thing I'd like to just mention, and you all can make a comment in it, and then you can go straight into the other stuff that you want to mention. Well, two things. One, that I got hold of a comment, in part, that the Prime Minister of St. Vincent made recently. And I thought to myself, this is a good comment that we can get perhaps opinions on. And he was given probably a speech or greeting, and he said, I always tell my people, I know you love me, and so forth and so on. And you campaign and so on, but do not mash up your family for me. Let me go over that again. I always tell people, I know you love me and so forth, and you campaign for me and so on, but do not mash up your family for me. The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Godwin Friday. So I thought that is worth repeating. I don't know how many other politicians will agree with him. I don't know whether or not that is just words. But I hardly endorse things and people. I want to come out of the gate and endorse that. Right? I see too much of it. And it's the game that they keep playing. So, the second thing is, Brandy, you might remember, Fifield, I don't know. But a few weeks ago, you all remember when they had the last government partial shutdown in the United States? When the workers at the airport and stuff like that couldn't get their pay.
Yes.
You all remember that? You all remember me making a suggestion? And I think others on the panel contributed to it. Anybody remember what the suggestion was?
If my memory is correct, I believe you would have said that perhaps the politicians ought not to be paid as well.
You're correct. I said that, I have an idea, maybe what they should do in the United States and here too, all over. What they should do is that when they have those impasses and the ordinary people who are struggling can't get paid and to feed their family and stuff like that, maybe the parliamentarians and so on who cause it should not get paid either. And I was trying to get my guys to roll back the tape so I could have played it back. But I'm glad you remembered.
Yes, I remembered it.
So this is what I learned. A friend of mine in the United States called me the other day, a couple of days ago actually, and he says, boy, you're something else. He laughed and I said, what happened? He said, because apart from the Let's Talk, I had told him this idea privately. He said, boy, you know, they're passing a bill up here. He lives in the United States. He's passing a bill up here with the idea that you have. That's what you mean. He said that when they shut down the government again and so on, the senators and them don't get paid until they sort it out. So I asked him if it passed. He said, no, but not yet, but they have the votes. But the good thing about those kind of things when they do it in the United States, as Edric would say in other jurisdictions, it wouldn't come into effect with this particular, it will go over for the next one so that you can say, well, it affects you directly one way or the other. So the people who are running will know what the issues are. Now, even if it is not so, it gives me encouragement that even people are thinking and being courageous, because a lot of the problems and the pressure that they put on the ordinary people, if they were feeling it, they'll do better. So I'm done.
Yeah, Webbo, the statement that you read from Prime Minister Godwin Friday of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I think that it's really profound. I believe that he's correct. I believe that there's a time and a place for everything. You know, there's family would always, should always be there, and people, each individual, we must understand that we are made up differently. We are not alike. We have our likes, we have our dislikes. We look at things differently. We see the same thing from different angles. And this has always been used, the 6 or the 9, and what you see actually. I'm saying that to say that individuals, you know, are made up, they come from a family base. And of course they become part of the society. And as a society, at least in the St. Kitts Nevis, every 5 years or thereabout, you know, we would go to the polls to elect a government. And I believe that people should be able to respect each other's views. And of course you can argue and argue, but at the end of it, your friendship or your family ties, I believe, should not be broken because of politics or any other thing, I dare say. Because when we look at it, even if I'm going to put it into the workplace or the work environment, you're at work with your co-workers. Something happened to you. You cannot show up tomorrow to work and going forward. You are replaced. Your family now, they are the ones who would be by your side, looking for you, looking out for you, day after day, year after year, so to speak. Depends on what happens to you. So I want to believe that, you know, there should be some level of understanding, some level of maturity. And I believe, to Webbo, that, you know, the politicians have a responsibility that when they are on the campaign trail, they discuss issues. You know, how can, for example, we make Nevis a better place for all persons who reside here? What can we do? What steps can we do? Should we start at point A and we go north, or we go south or east, as the case may be? Because most times, you know, politicians who are vying for elected office, they would come and tell you they want the best for this particular, and let's just use Nevis. They want the best for Nevis. And if all politicians are saying that they want the best for Nevis, the end goal must be something good. But perhaps the pathway that one is taking persons may not like that pathway. So I am saying, if it is that all politicians, quote unquote, want the best for their country, then why should we as family members, co-workers, acquaintances, friends, just, break way with each other because of that? And as individuals too, I want to believe that we want the best for our country. So I am saying, let us deal with issues. Let me put away the petty politics. Let me deal with issues again and, move forward. And that is also saying to Webbo that he's saying, look, if you break ties with your family and let's say 100, 200 households break ties with the family, he, as Prime Minister, would not be able to create that bond as a family member would be able to create. It is something special. And if we look, for example, the bond between parents, a mother and a child, it is a different type of love than even brothers and sisters, siblings. It's a different type of love between, niece, nephew, what it is, siblings. It's a different type of love, a different type of bond, of bond. So I believe that the family, the foundation, should always stay together. We may disagree, and we would disagree even in other things other than politics. So I'm saying, even if we disagree in politics, let us remain together, because the end result, I believe, for each party is to try to make their country a better place.
Well, Mr. Herbert, on that note, I decided before coming here tonight that I was going to say something about party politics, but in terms of family, I don't believe anyone should make enmity with anybody, whether your family, your friend, your neighbor, your countryman, because I always tell people, do not allow yourself to hate or become bitter with anyone over politics, because if I fall down, I don't know whose son is going to reach down to pick me up. So don't let politics divide us. And I wanted to say, I don't want to put it like political parties in a negative light, but I made a note about the danger of party politics. And I just want to explain that political parties themselves are not the danger. But the danger comes when party loyalty becomes more important than the country or your love for your family or your friends. You could say the political parties are necessary in a democracy. They organize ideas, policies, and representation. But when party politics becomes extreme, it can divide people, including your family, silence independent thinking, reward blind loyalty, and place political survival above national development. The key dangers that I would want to mention tonight is 1, division among citizens. People begin seeing each other as political enemies instead of fellow citizens. 2, tribal or blind loyalty. Some supporters defend wrongdoing simply because it comes from their side. 3, fear and victimization. Citizens may feel pressured to support a party to receive opportunities or fair treatment. 4, weak accountability. When party loyalty is absolute, leaders stop being questioned. 5, country comes second. National decisions can become more about winning an election than solving the problem. A country cannot move forward if every issue is treated as a political war. well, if it's my side who say it, well, it's okay or it's right, and then if the other side say it is wrong, vice versa. Democracy works best when citizens think independently. Good governance requires patriotism, not partisanship. And we should support policies because they are right, not simply because our party proposed them. Now we have the discussion about the SSD going on. Some support only because maybe it's not the party who put it in place, while others might support it because I'm supporting my party who is behind this. Party politics become dangerous when citizens lose the freedom to disagree. No political party should become more important than the nation itself. And in closing on that, I will say political parties are an important part of democracy. The goal is not to destroy party politics, but to ensure that national interests always come before political interests, and in that I can say family should come before political interests. Thank you.
Well, I want to identify with the comments by Godwin Friday. I remember very clearly in 2013 when I ran for the first time, I spoke to a gentleman in the Stony Grove area, someone who I went to school with, someone, he called me by our primary school and secondary school days, Rudy. And I asked him for his support. And he was frank, he was upfront and honest. He said, "By Rudy, I can't." This was a young man who had a business. This was a young man who was trying, in my mind, to carve out his way in life. And he was blunt with me and said, "I can't," because the other side would have given him some assistance to start his business. And I said to him, "Brother, listen, there is no hard feelings. I understand you can't, as I said to him, you can't cut the hand that feed you." And that was the end of that conversation. I went back at him again years later, and all he did was laugh. I don't know whether he would have switched side or not, but that is irrelevant. In 2017, Webbo, I had a similar occurrence with a young man from Craddock Road, and his family is a very strong supporter of the other side, and he really wanted to come out and publicly and support me. And I remember saying to him very clearly, I said, "Listen, I don't want you to lose your family because of politics." I remember saying that to him very clearly. "I don't want you to lose your family, and I don't want you to, I don't want to lose your friendship." That was the gist of the conversation. Well, but I have been in this business as an elected member now for 8 years, 9 years. And I can have an appreciation of what Mr. Friday is speaking about, Webbo, because some of the nastiest of things that people say against other people just from time to time to get a leg up, it is very, very troubling. There are times when things are manufactured. There are times when people are willing to say all kind of things in the name of politics. And I have learned, Webbo, that this business of politics is not a lifetime guarantee. I want to say that again. This business of, let me put in the word elective politics, is not a lifetime guarantee. We are living in a society where the order or the rule of law is something we call democracy. And at the end of the day, the people would have the final say. So some persons grab onto this idea of politics and feel or get the impression that it's a lifetime guarantee, it's a lifetime right. Nothing to go so. You can wake up tomorrow morning, you have an election, and the people say to you, bye-bye. So I can appreciate what Mr. Friday is saying, that how we relate to each other, especially our family, when it comes to politics. I have seen, and I have, you know, in this business you have, over time, have some strained relationship because of politics, right? And persons may not necessarily agree with you on certain position that you take, and it strained the relationship. I'm not only even talking about family, but relationships in general. And I think that Mr. Friday would have put it or bring it closer to the family component of it. But I want to broaden it to more than just the family. It is relationship in general. And I think that there are persons who, sadly because of politics, have become so distant with each other, have become so angry with each other, have become so victual with each other in the name of politics. Roger highlighted the fact that perhaps we have strayed away from the true ethos, so to speak, of what politics is all about, and that is the issues. The personal attacks and all of that sound good on the campaign trail, and people jump up and but sometimes it tore at the fabric and the membrane of that individual and the family that is going through it. And if it is that we are to really take a step back, two things I want to point out. One, this business of politics is not a lifetime guarantee, because like I said, in the morning, you have an election and people can say, well, it's time for you to move on. And two, I think that your family is your family, and some of the relationships that you have built for a lifetime, 20, 30, 40 years, get destroyed because of this business of politics. I think that those are two areas where the sentiments of Prime Minister Friday hits home, it hits at the core. Right, we can discuss the issue. Ms. Maloney spoke very briefly about the destiny. There are other things that around that we can have and Webbo, you often say, an honest debate on, and leave out the kind of personal attacks and I think, Webbo, that you see this radio station here. I traveled to Dominican Republic last year, and I was able to tune into one radio while I was there, and I'm there saying, but I am in this place far away from home, and I am still being able to, through the wonders of technology and the online service, still hear what is going on. Sometimes I wonder, Webbo, if our people really understand at times the negative impacts that some of these utterances can have, not only on, quote unquote, you bring up the matter of family, on other persons and on your country at whole. And I think, Webbo, that if we are to take what Prime Minister Friday said to us, maybe we need to take a step back, broaden it not only to family, but like I said, you have relationships that people have built for many years, and look at ourselves and say, well, boy, that was not such a nice thing to say or to do, and damage that relationship. Because at the end of the day, at some point, you are going to be on the checkout and the departure lounge, and some of the same individuals who may have created that rift is going to be in the same environment. And how do you relate to that? So I have developed a very what I would consider to be a very manageable strategy. Before I say anything bad about anybody in this business of politics, I don't say anything. And it's not, Webbo, that there isn't, or you don't have the opportunity to say something bad about people. We are living in this community, we know one another, right? It's just a matter of choice, and I think that the comments by Prime Minister Friday should say to all of us that, look, we can argue about the issue, we can argue about the state of the economy, we can argue about the cost of living, we can argue about what is taking place internationally that is affecting us. We can argue about the various and all of that. But leave the personal and the victual attacks on the side. Because at the end of the day, it can come right back at you when you are in the departure lounge. And Webbo?
In what lounge?
Sorry? When some people are in the departure lounge, Webbo, I want to...
No, wait, Mr. Ben. Let me just include it.
I'm not hearing you.
Wait, no, wait.
Oh, okay.
Just hold a second. It was my fault there. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night, Webber, and good night to your panelists there. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Nice discussion. Now, I myself witnessed a lot of these things with people envious to people because of back political parties. I experienced it for myself. I remember a young lady, she had a political shot from a different party. She mother was supporting the next party. And she mother said, as long as she got on that shot, she ain't gonna come in that home. You know, so, and the young lady was done working. You understand? So these are the things that we supposed to learn. That's why I tell people we got to educate to these politics. We got to educate to it because what happened? These politicians, when they go up on this rostrum, or go up in a forum, they cuss down one another, but when you see them laughing up and drinking and, you know, talking to one another. It's something like to put us against one another. But it ain't that if you educate to it, you wouldn't think that way. And a lot of people are because right in my little village where I live down here, boy. I can't on the radio sometimes I criticize the government we're in. And a lot of people who used to speak to me, they stop. They're passing me straight, they say nothing to me. I don't want to be reason why for that. And these are people humbling people who want help. Yeah, something the party don't even study them, but they just for the party and they just is that. And these things is bad, you know, because when these things, people so politically ignorant and don't want to know what's going on. And you just vote for party because of your party's sake. You know, he hamper the country, he hamper you too. Because if you can't see your party doing wrong, you can't call it a party when you're doing wrong things. Right? You love your country. And some of them don't even know what's going on in the politics. So that's why me always listen to me alone. I used to be in that kind of way too. I used to cuss people about politics. I done with that. I call in on the radio and say what I got to say. And when I done with that, I say, anybody with me tell me about any politics, I will have a discussion with them. But I won't have no abuse nobody over no politics. Because you ain't taking us nowhere. When we don't elect the politicians, some of them they turn their back on us, so we don't do all those things for them. You all have a wonderful night. I continue to listen to the program. Blessed. Okay,
back to you, Mr. Bryan.
Webbo, forgive me for a bit. I wanted to go back to something Brian Dyer spoke about very early.
No problem.
And the matter of the drought. The drought outlook is not very encouraging, but what we have been trying to do, not only this year, but in the past year, 2 years or so, we have been embarking Webbo on trying to find what we call additional water or new water. The public would know that we are presently engaging in a drilling exercise here on the island of Nevis, where we would have completed 2 wells over in the Maddens area, and we recently completed one in Hamilton. And we started one in the Daysons area, which we had some challenges with, but we are hoping to go back to that very shortly. I'm saying all of that to say this, Webbo, that the drought forecast that is upon us, I believe that Nevis is in a pretty decent position as it relates to being able to handle the drought forecast. We have been able to bring online 2 additional wells. One is presently on standby to be connected, and one is basically the site is available, and we are hoping to get back to that site very shortly. It is, in my mind, Webbo, a position that I feel that I can sleep a little better at nights because of the position that we are in. I would even go further, Webbo. At the moment, we are constructing a 500,000 gallon tank in the Stony Hill area in Gingerland. That again is going to be online probably in a few weeks, and that would add some additional storage to the storage capacity that we have on the island. I want Webbo to put Nevis in a position where once the full onslaught of the drought hits, that there would be no water rationing on the island of Nevis. I know that we haven't had any water rationing for the last, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years, and I would knock on wood and hope that the situation is not so severe that we can do without any water rationing. I thought I would speak a little bit about it because Mr. Brian Dyer spoke about the drought forecast, and when he presented that drought forecast to me, I perhaps I get a few more gray hairs, but I was comforted to know about that. We are in a sweet spot, so to speak, where I think that we will be able to manage it and we'll be able to weather it. We continue to see about the issue of the global warming and what is happening with the irregular rainfall patterns. We got some today, and I'm hoping that we can get a bit more of that over the next few days. But I just wanted to say that the position that we are in right now, I believe that we are going to come out better on the other side.
Yeah, Webbo, I want to congratulate Mr. Brand and his entire team. I believe that, as he rightfully said, there has been some time that has passed, that has lapsed, that we didn't have any water rationing, and I really hope that that can be continuous going into the future, in that we wouldn't be, having our water turn off from time to time. Gone are the days when, I was growing up, you had to go to New River and other parts, for water and to wash and stuff like that, over where we call over the gut, to wash and stuff like that. And, I believe that we would have come a long way. And sometimes we don't really recognize, where we are until, some sort of comparison, would have been done. And just recently, if we were to look at our sister island, the Honorable Conwis Maynard made some comments to the effect that, for the first time in a number of years, the Basti area would have been getting water. And when we really look at it, and the 2 islands, for some reason or the other, I'm not saying that it is correct, but for some reason or the other, persons believe or think that St. Kitts is better than Nevis. And when we look at this comparison now to see that Nevis is ahead, I mean, we must say kudos to those who are responsible to having us in that particular position. So I just want to say, kudos to you, Bran, and the whole water department team. And I drove through the Rollins area, Stony Hill area. I think it might have been on the weekend, and sometime, but I recognize that some construction is going on there, and I say kudos for your forward thinking and your foresight, and we hope that we would have continuous water for many years to come.
I too would like to congratulate you and your team, Honorable Ban, and I, like Roger, I would want to say I like my showers, and I spend many days, sometimes, the water bottle, the big 250 or whatever water, that's what that used to be my shower. So now to know that with even the job coming up that we wouldn't have to go through that, I am so grateful and keep up the good work.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, good night again. Me again, Mr. Politics calling me from Singapore again. Now, I hear the gentleman just I hear my brother with the same thing too. So can be said that. I hear him say that too, water going 24, it past 15 years. That when they could not get water in Bass, they getting water 24/7 now. No water going. And far from the truth, nothing like that goes on. Up to when he made this statement, somebody called me, tell me that we live in the Basti area, tell me that politics water went last night. What he saying? Water's got inhalers, water's going all in Basti area, got inhalers and different place every night in Basti still. So you see that when politicians say these things to make people feel good and say they propping up themselves, this far from the truth. Water go every night in Basti, the same way still, nothing like that goes up. And I ain't gonna stop here being a dummy and here I talk about it and don't respond to it. And I talk about it from Mark Brantley program already too. You understand? Me ain't gonna stop here being a dummy and say these things. This is lies, they're telling lies, a lot of lies too. You all have a wonderful night, may God bless.
Yeah, caller. Hello? Okay, I was hoping that Mr. Brand will defend himself while the caller was on the line, but you can still defend yourself.
Well, I am not sure if he was speaking about me, actually.
Or you were speaking about Raja? Oh, really? Oh, Raja, defend yourself then.
I'm not sure the caller was speaking about me. I think
you either.
No,
okay.
but
walk with me. Let's leave it then. He's not talking about you. He's not talking about Brand. So let's leave it. Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank my fellow panelists for their very kind words. But it's been a long road, a coordinated and collaborated effort, and I remember the Premier would have looked me square in the eye and tell me plain out, listen, this problem need to get fixed and deal with it, and we set about what we needed to do. But Webbo, I want to also appeal to the people of Nevis. I think that I must use this opportunity to encourage our people to, as far as possible and as much as they can, to conserve as much water as they possibly can. Try as much as possible not to waste the water. We are providing a commodity that is heavily subsidized, and it is a resource, Webbo, that is absolutely necessary for life in general. There is nothing you can do to survive literally without water. You plant food, your hygiene, your everything. It's you cook, you need water. And I really want to encourage our people to be more conscious of it and to conserve as much of it as they possibly can. And I know at times where we have leaks in the system, we have breaks in the system. Sometimes the response time is not as rapid as we would like, but we try to do our best with the situation that we have. So I want to also encourage our people to try and, when they see these situations, to try and report them. But I particularly really want to say to our people to conserve as much of that water as they can. You know, when you're brushing your teeth, turn off the pipe, when those kind of things. And it goes a long way. At the end of the day, the non-revenue water that we just literally flush down the toilet, we want to reduce that. we have a situation where that is of concern.
Okay, Mr. Byrne, let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night.
Good night.
You go ahead, Mr. Byrne.
So, I was saying that we have a situation where the matter of non-revenue water, where there are some water that is just produced and wasted throughout the region. That is a concern. And I really want to appeal to our people to conserve and, where possible, as often as they can, try and make sure that they pay their bills when due. And I think, Webbo, that while we continue to do our part in terms of trying to get as much water to market as possible, it's a partnership with our people. We really want to stress on the conservation side of it. And we really want to say to our people, wherever they see situations, try and report it.
Yeah, well, I want to join in,
Before you join in, let's go to Janet. Janet, you wanted to come in?
Yes, but I think I might change up things a bit here, Webbo. I brought my thought to this evening, some thought to this evening discussion. So I don't know, Roger, you were going to say something in response to what Mr. Van would have said, and then I'll just...
Okay, so let's do that.
Yeah, thanks for yielding. Yeah, what I really wanted to do is to join in with the same chorus with Mr. Brand, and to encourage persons, to conserve. Sometimes, even we as individuals, we go to take a shower and the water is running from start until end. And some persons, I know, they stay in the bath for 20 minutes to 1.5 an hour, and that goes a long way. And I think that if we could find small ways, maybe after we would have soap our skin, to turn off the water, and then we just wash it off, stuff like that. And even for irrigation purposes, maybe the wastewater that comes through the line, maybe from the bathroom and stuff like that, and the face basin, maybe we need to probably channel it in a way that it go to our gardens. And these are some of the ways that we could probably cut back, in terms of using the water from the tap to water the plants and stuff like that. So I just want to join in that chorus. Thank you.
Janet.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Van, for those tips. And of course, I might have to stop singing in the shower because it takes me longer and I waste more water. So I'll work on that. Mr. Herbert, I wanted to speak on something tonight. Water is life, and I wanted to, talk about government versus governance. Now, many people hear the words government and governance and they think they mean the same thing, but they are different. And understand, because it took, I think it's last year I started fully to understand the difference between government and governance. And understanding the difference is one of the keys to building a stronger democracy. Government versus governance. Government is who is in office. Governance is how the country is run. Government is the people holding the power or holding power. Governance is the way the power is used. A government can change every 5 years, but governance affects generations. That means good governance is not about party colors, it's about providing water when there's a job, for example. And it is not about red, blue, yellow, green, or even independent. Good governance is about honesty, accountability, fairness, transparency, respect for the people, and leadership that serves instead of rules. What makes up government? In a democratic country like St. Kitts and Nevis, government is made up of several important parts. The executive, referring to, this includes the Prime Minister, Premier, etc., cabinet ministers and government departments. Their job is to manage the country day to day and carry out policies. Then you have the legislature. This is Parliament. Their job is to make laws, debate national issues, and represent the people. Parliament should never be a rubber stamp. It should be a place where questions are asked and the people's interests are defended. Then we have the judiciary. These are the courts and judges. Their responsibility is to ensure justice and uphold the Constitution. The law must protect everybody equally, whether rich or poor, connected or ordinary. And outside of these three branches, democracy also depends on the media, churches, trade union, businesses, civil society. Civil society includes the churches, unions, community groups, youth organizations, and other groups that help represent citizens and strengthen democracy. And above all, and most importantly, the people. Because democracy is strongest when citizens are informed, involved, and are unafraid to speak up. What does good governance look like? Good governance means taxpayers know how their money is spent. Contracts are awarded fairly, not some get because of whatever kickbacks or because they support your party and others don't. Public servants are respected. Young people see opportunities and citizens do not need political connections to succeed. I know some people might be afraid to say, well, I don't have a godfather in government or so and so, and if I don't support that party, it means I may not get a job. That is not right. Good governance means leadership with integrity, not leadership that says, support me first and I will help you. But leadership that says, you are a citizen first and your government must serve you equally. Okay? And so I just want to mention government is who holds power, or repeat, sorry, but governance is how power is used. Government is who hold power, but governance is how power is used. A good government serves the people. It does not expect the people to serve it. Democracy is not ownership of a country. It is stewardship of a country. Public office is a responsibility, not a reward. The people are not subjects of politicians. Politicians are supposed to be servants of the people. Good governance begins with accountability and ends with trust. Transparency builds confidence. Secrecy destroys it. A nation cannot prosper if citizens feel excluded from opportunity. And in speaking to the youth, our young people are watching. They want fairness, they want opportunity, they want leaders they can trust. And many young people today are not asking for handouts. They are asking for a fair chance. This is why governance matters. Because when governance is weak, corruption grows, trust declines, talent leaves, and citizens lose hope. But when governance is strong, investment grows, institutions become stronger, and people begin believing in their country again. So my message tonight is simple. Good governance is not a luxury. It is not a slogan. It is the foundation for democracy. A country succeeds when its institutions are strong, its leaders are accountable, and its people are respected. Leadership without accountability becomes power without responsibility, and power without responsibility becomes abuse of power. And no matter which party we support, we should all want honesty in public life, fairness in decision making, and leadership that puts country above self-interest. Because at the end of the day, this country belongs to all of us. So that is my little tad bit for now, and I'll give somebody else a chance to comment.
I'm a little curious. What's your take or what's your position on the civil service's role in the execution of the governance of the country?
That they too should exercise integrity and transparency and accountability, and they too should put the country's interests above their own, and so they should do their work with due diligence.
Why I ask is because you highlighted that the government and you spoke about the parliament, and parliament is there to make laws and the execution of the policy of the government is filtered down to civil service. And oftentimes we find situations where the execution of the government's initiative and policies, for one reason or the other, there is a lag, there is a slow pace at times. So I am curious at times to, and I'm perhaps asking you the question directly, the importance, and perhaps you can stress on the importance of the role of the civil service in the execution of the governance / policy of the government. And it can be any government.
You mean the government departments
Well,
in carrying out
yeah,
policies that
yeah.
are passed down?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why there is a slow process in civil servant carrying out the to carry out the policies passed down by the minister and possibly the PS.
No, I think what I'm getting at, what I'm trying to get at is you make the comparison between government and governance. And I often feel that the key to the execution of policies and the implementation / of good governance rests most times with the civil service. And it's not that I'm saying that we do not have a good civil service. We have persons in the civil service who always go above and beyond. They put in their pound of flesh, and some work under some challenging circumstances at times. I think that in your presentation, I would have hoped that you would have highlight or specify the importance of the role of the civil service in ensuring the execution of the governance policy and the governance part of the government.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your guest. Pretty interesting show.
Good evening.
Yeah, I really like the viewpoint of the young lady there. But Mr. Brand, she did spoke of abuse of privilege. I would like to hear your take on that one. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Abuse of privilege across the system.
I think the caller is gone.
What I would say to the caller, that continues to be of some concern, and we are not going to shy away from it. Right now, Webbo, we are facing a situation globally with the high or the increase in price of fuel. And I think as we seek to try and grapple with that, we try to ensure that we get persons who are or have access to government vehicles, to reduce the use of those, to try and counteract some of that. I think that is something that you try to do, not necessarily try and handicap the individuals from doing their work effectively and properly. But I think that he spoke about the abuse, and I think that while you try to pull that back to some extent, to try and cushion the impact and the effects of the high cost of fuel, that is just one area. I'm just giving you one scenario, one hypothetical area.
Well, if I can chime in here, what I can say is that if we are speaking about, governance, or the lack thereof, and we have incorporated from the ministerial level right down to, the regular worker. I want to believe that sometimes, I'm not speaking to any particular island, but there might very well be at times that the communication, and when I speak to communication, I'm speaking about proper communication, timely communication, effective communication, and that would mean using the necessary channels. Maybe if it's a phone call, maybe if it's an email or what have you, from the ministerial level come straight down, and that linkage I want to believe would be with the PS. I'm sure, sometimes, persons in the various departments, they may not have even possibly heard or from their maybe boss, so to speak, at the department level, from the PS, from the minister. You necessarily have to be at all times, but I'm saying sometimes it becomes necessary for that linkage and that particular communication in order for things to get rolling in a manner that, you who are parliamentarians, you who are ministers, would want your agenda to roll out. So maybe that could be a bottleneck that prohibits, good governance. Back to Ms. Maloney, I think she spoke to government, or the ones who hold power, and party politics. But my question is, who provide that governance? I would want to believe that it is persons from a particular party that has been elected to govern. And so I believe first and foremost you would have to look at the parties, the individuals that...
Well, what happened to the independence? The independence. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies.
Good evening.
I don't think we should water down what the lady was referring to and restrict it to public service efficiency type answer. I think it goes beyond that, in that governance is, the tone is set much higher up than the civil service. The civil service, the public service, is a reflection of the tone set from the leadership of that service, from the government itself, the people who are governing. Okay, if the tone is bad up there, it's going to filter down to the service. And I think one of the problems, I don't think anyone would dare say that we are anywhere near what our governance should be like. Okay? We are nowhere near, for instance, a meritorious society, right? Where you get things like promotion, contract, those kinds of things, simply because there are standards, there are procedures, there are qualifiers that are consistently adhered to. No, I don't think anyone would dare say that we're anywhere close to that. Okay, and if we don't have a meritorious society, it means that things are not done fairly. And if things are not done fairly, you're going to have problems.
Caller,
right?
let me, what, for my own edification, what does that mean?
What?
What you just explained. That we are nowhere where we ought to be.
Can we say, for instance, that although we have supposedly lots of checks and balances that they are actually working. For instance, are we absolutely sure that things like the procurement procedures are followed to a T? At the federal level, do we have a working public accounts committee?
Okay, so now I understand. So let me ask you this. So why should we expect that against the backdrop? Does not it reflect the actual performance, who we actually are as a people?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so why your question then and your concern? Because we are giving and representing who we are.
No, but that's not good enough.
Well,
shouldn't we aim for something better?
Better than who we are?
Of course, if there is...
Walk with me. We are exhibiting who we are as a people. It's like, you remember Kuba Asigai?
Yes.
Kuba Asigai, I interviewed him once or twice. Interesting fellow. And he said something to me which stuck with me. He said in the interview, we look in the mirror as a people and we do not like what we see. That has stuck with me all these years.
That's where he ended? He didn't say that we should try and be better?
Now, that's the quotation that we get, that I took away from it. What? So
I'm saying that, okay, we accept that we're not where we're supposed to be, that we could be better. Then why should we not do better?
No, I think you're disconnecting me. I've been using Edric name all night. What I'm saying is, I'm asking the question that what we live and what we demonstrate, isn't it who we are? And you said yes. So, you're suggesting to me that we shouldn't be that?
No, we should aspire for something better.
Better? Oh, really? Okay, go ahead with your... Hello, I got you. Continue with the point you were making. Oh, Bran wants to come in.
Bran, on a scale, you say we are not where we should be, or we ought to be. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate? If you can position me on your scale, let me see where we are.
Well, that's difficult, but I would say somewhere in the middle. Because, you see, we have these systems, these checks and balances and all those things, and all the institutions that are supposed to make government run more efficient, to make sure there's no corruption, to make sure there's fairness and so on in the procurement procedures and so. But they are just not working properly. Right? Because we know from time to time, we still hear complaints. Right? And I'm saying, and you know, there are lots of adages that we can add to this. People get the government that they deserve, and meaning, well, if we know that a government is corrupt and we still re-elect them, for instance, well, that's on us, okay? Or they will say things like, well, you can't blame the politicians because we're the one who go begging them for favors, right? And I'm saying that there needs to be accountability at all levels.
Okay.
From the top, from the government to the civil service, right down to the persons who these services are provided.
Okay, caller, I think we got your point.
Okay.
Janet, you want to come in? You wanted to come in, no?
Yes, I wanted to respond to Minister Brand, because he mentioned about the civil servants, but as I mentioned, in a democratic country like St. Kitts and the government, I mentioned about the executive. The executive is made up of Prime Minister, Premier, Cabinet Ministers, and government department, meaning the civil servants are supposed to work in tandem to bring about, to implement the policies. And we are aware of what was on in government at times. As a civil servant, for example, I've been a director for years. I report to a PS who report to the minister. right? The PS, most of the time, what is passed down is like in the civil, it's a top-down approach in most cases, and so you can only do as much as what you are allowed to do in most circumstances. You can't go above, as person that say, I cannot go above my pay grade.
I'm not sure if the point that I was basically trying to allude to is that while we have the various branches of government, the executive, the legislative, and the various structures, my question was, in the execution of the governance of any country, we're talking about St. Kitts and Nevis, the importance or the highlighted role of the civil service. Because I think oftentimes we go to Parliament, we pass a piece of legislation, we pass a piece of legislation that deals with offshore banking, and these are the steps, and these are what you're supposed to do, and how you're supposed to do it, and so on and so forth. I think that the importance and how you capture the important role of the civil servants, that is the area that I wanted to zero in on. The previous caller spoke about we are not where we ought to be, but he left a little earlier. I wanted to ask him if we even at a passing grade, because
it's the middle.
I think I know you said the middle. The middle can be, but I think that he left. So I hope that he can call back in and tell me if at least we get a passing grade. I know he said the middle.
Webbo, what I was saying just before the caller calling, and it comes down to the parties, the individual that make up the parties, the different parties, and of course if they are independent candidates, you have to view those candidates who would be possibly ministers of government, and ask yourself, are they accountable? Do they have integrity? Are they fair-minded? And these are some of the questions we have to ask ourselves, because as you rightfully say, Webbo, if we are, let me paraphrase it, if we are a society and we would get what we have in society, if we have persons in society, running for elective office, and they do not have integrity, and they are being elected, then we wouldn't have a government that has integrity. So we have to look at that, going back to Ms. Maloney, we must look at parties and how the parties are comprised, who the individuals are. Do these set of persons, do they have integrity? Are they accountable people? You must judge them on merit, so to speak. And then is where and when we would know if this set of persons who comprise a particular party, is the best to govern us as a society, as a country. I believe that is fundamental. And what I believe too, if we are having
Let me just take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, to answer directly,
yes,
I think we do get a passing grade. We're not a failed state.
Well, you had me a bit worried because you said we was in the middle. I wanted to know.
No, we get a passing grade, but we're nowhere near. What I said was we're nowhere where we need to be. Right? We're not a failed state. We're not Haiti or one of those dictatorships or anything like that. But there are instances where we know we can do better, where we just allow things to pass and say, well, that's politics. The other governments did it. This is how it's done.
Let me engage you, caller, at this junction. We are not a failed state, you said, correct?
Right.
We may be close to that, you think?
No, we're nowhere close.
We're nowhere close to that. So we're doing pretty good.
No, we're not doing pretty good.
Okay. Well, let me ask.
We're somewhere
Work
on
with-
a scale of 1 to 10. I would say 6.
Okay. Well, 6 is pretty good, you know. Well, let me ask you this. There was ever a time we were doing better than 6?
I think there was. I
Okay.
think there was a time when we had a really professional civil service.
Okay. So.
That's gone to the dog.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
in that case, to continue with Mr. Brand's example or scenario, so we would have been what, 8?
Yes, I would say in that region.
8. Okay. And do you know what period of time that was?
Well, I can point, for instance, to when I entered the civil service.
Okay.
Well,
So
when
when
I
wa-
really
when was
strong-
that? 19 when?
That was early in the 1980s.
1980s. So who was the prime minister at the time?
It is actually it was before that. When I left school.
Walk
it was
with
late
me.
70s. Late
So
70s. I think.
now, listen, walk with me. If you want to collect your thoughts and call back, it's okay.
No, that's not
'Cause
necessary.
okay, so it was in the 1970s.
Yes,
Okay, 71 maybe,
probably. No, much later down. Yeah,
79 maybe,
probably around 78.
78.
Yeah,
Okay, who was the prime minister or the premier then?
around 78. It might have been. What was it then?
You can't remember.
Can't
but,
remember.
Okay,
I can't
but
remember.
that's okay. People will calculate it real quick. So
Might have
when
been thing because I think Dr. Simmons came in 1980. That's when he had the election.
That's correct.
So it would have been either Limor or Southwell or one of those guys.
okay, so in other words, it was before Dr. Simmons.
Yes.
Okay, so
I think
since
things started to slide after that. Yeah.
things started to slide when Dr.
Yeah.
Simmons came. So
I remember really strong permanent secretaries.
yeah, go ahead.
Who, you know, I mean, they were strict. You call them strict.
Okay,
Right.
so it is fair to deduce, based on the facts that you're given and your viewpoint, that since we became independent, we've been not doing so well.
Yeah, we've kind of slid backward.
Slid backwards. Okay, I got your view. Yeah, go ahead, Five-Heel.
Yeah, Webbo, thank you. Webbo, I was saying that, you know, we have to ask ourselves, where do we get persons who comprise the government? We get it from our society. I think what happens, you know, when we look at accountability, fairness, you know, integrity, it comes straight from the home, our values coming up. It goes to the school. You know, maybe the curriculum probably need to be adjusted. Maybe civics and stuff like that need to be introduced in the school. You know, for us to be groomed into better individuals, better men and women. And if we are, then we would have better men and women, you know, in government ministerial roles and stuff like that. But I also want to believe too that I believe that there's a break. You know, growing up, someone in the civil service, you would not have been hearing, for example, Tom. You would have been hearing Mr. Jones, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so. And I really hear that now. And it is not, to me, it was just a level of respect. You have to show that respect. You have to understand that, you know, someone is in charge, someone is of a higher level. I had a sister that used to be in the civil service, and I used to hear her talk a lot about these things. You dare not go in and say Carol or Peter or Jane. You have to call that person by their last name. And gone are the days, you know, when, let's say I work in Department A, you know, not because this person works in Department B. I have to respect that person. And it appears as if now that, you know, persons in the civil service, unless you are probably my direct boss or supervisor, I don't respect maybe Miss Maloney who works in a different area and she's of a higher rank. You know, and I believe that these are small things that we probably need to introduce to let the service, you know, the persons who make up the civil service know, look, it is one civil service. There is not two civil service. So you have this ranking. You have the PS, the directors, the head of departments, the supervisors, and whatnot. It is one civil service, and people have to understand that they must respect authority. They first have to respect themselves, because if they do not respect themselves, in my humble opinion, they will never be able to respect anything or anybody. And these are things that we, as I said, we have to go back to. We have to make ourselves better persons. We have to strive to be better persons, better individuals, if we want better governance, because persons would be selected and elected from us in the society to be government ministers and thus to govern our country.
Well, let me go back and concerning the civil service, Roger. We too have the responsibility in terms of how we govern, and we too must be honest. No, it doesn't matter the position that you hold. You must be honest, accountable, have fairness, be transparent, and respect for all, and leadership, and exemplify leadership that serve instead of rules. In the civil service, sometimes people would say, there's something I didn't want to touch, and I keep saying, the politics in the civil service is what is destroying the civil service.
And
the politics.
What I was saying, Miss Maloney, before you misconstrue what I'm saying. What I said is that we all of us are drawn from the society, and if we have integrity, if we are free-minded, and we are accountable, it doesn't matter what level or what stage we are, we are going to show that is going to come out, you know, that is going to come out. It doesn't matter. I should come out. It doesn't matter at what level. Now, in terms of the politics, so to speak, in the civil service, I am saying there is where professionalism need to come in. We as civil servants, we need to be more professional. We need to be able to understand, look, this is the civil service. We are here to serve. We are civil servants. We are here to serve everybody, and not because somebody might have voted for party A or party B, they would have get preferential treatment. No, I do not believe, and that is where it comes back to us as individuals. We come from the society, and I'm saying if we get a better society, if we get a more professional society, if we get society that is based on values, principle, integrity, accountability, fairness, you name it, you know, then that would basically manifest itself in our work.
So the general sense is that it's a reflection of the broad section of the society.
That's what it is.
Okay. Webbo, we are running out of time, and I wanted to put a public service announcement on the table, and I completely forgot to do it in my introduction. So permit me to interject a little public service announcement here. Webbo, on the 25th of May, my constituency group will be conducting their 6th annual white goods cleanup in St. Paul's and in Charlestown. And we are hoping, Webbo, that as we have done for the past 5-6 years, a lot of those persons who have those white goods, refrigerators, old stove, washing machine that they wish to dispose of, that they can have them disposed of on Monday the 25th of May. We are hoping to start from around 7 a.m. and we want to wind down around 11:30, 12 o'clock. And I just wanted to say to persons in the St. Paul's area, if you have any such items and you wish to dispose of them, you can call 667-2184. 662-8130, 660-5526. Let me give those numbers again. 667-2184, 662-8130, or 660-5526. And we can make those pickup arrangements. I also, Webbo, want to encourage persons with those particular items, if they can, put them as close as possible to the street. I think over the years we have had to dig, around and under and through persons' property to get to some of these items, and it can be a bit tedious. So I'm really encouraging persons, if they have such items, if they can put them as close as possible to their boundary line. I don't want to say put them on the outside, but if they can put them as close as possible to the inside of their property, to make it a whole lot easier and make things go a bit faster. So that's our 6th annual White Goods Cleanup on Monday the 25th of May, starting at 7 a.m. to 11:30, 12 o'clock. And the numbers to call again, 667-2184, 662-8130, or 660-5526. And I'm hoping that we can have, as usual, the various requests as we try to continue to keep our various communities clean and eliminate the possibility of some of these rodents or mosquitoes and so on that can find themselves in these particular items. Thank you so much.
Janet, who's got the last word, Brian?
Okay, I just want to say, as I mentioned, just to iterate, power without responsibility becomes abuse of power from all ends, whether you're a government minister or a civil servant or somebody from civil society. No matter which party we support, we should all want honesty in public life, fairness in decision making, and leadership that puts country above self-interest. Because at the end of the day, this country belongs to all of us. Thank you, and may God continue to bless our nation.
So you wanted to tell Mr. Brandon?
It's not only for Mr. It's not only his responsibility as a minister, but also ours. We all have our role to play in putting country above self-interest. Not only Mr. Brand.
So you also wanted to tell Mr. Fifield that?
Mr. Fifield that, and myself, and to speak to myself on that matter as well.
And you didn't want to tell me that?
And to tell you that?
No, well, you wanted to tell Mr. Brand that I asked you that question, and you answered, correct?
I said, yes, Mr. I would like to say to Mr. Brand.
Right, and I asked you if you wanted to tell Mr. Fifield that.
Yes, and
you
answered,
said yes.
I would like to tell Mr. Fifield that as well.
So I also asked you if you would like to tell me that as well.
And I would like to tell you that as well, Mr. Herbert.
Okay.
Thank you.
This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough 8 o'clock on Thursday evening for Government at Work. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community talk that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.